Hello, everyone, and welcome to this year's Graphic Novel Buzz panel presented by the Graphic Novel Committee of the Children's Book Council. I'm your host, Mel Schuett. I'm a school and library marketing manager at the Quarto Group, and I'll be moderating our panel today. We have representatives from 8 publishers here to tell you about one of their favorite debut young adult graphic novels published this year. First, though, a little bit about the Children's Book Council. The CBC is the trade association for children's book publishers, and its work encompasses creating resources for teachers, librarians, and booksellers, organizing awards, and staging panels that let the book community know about upcoming titles, like today's. As part of the CBC, the Graphic Novel Committee advocates for greater adoption of graphic literature in schools and libraries, and works to bring books of particular note to a broader audience. And as huge fans of the format, we of course feel the same joy that you do when we discover an exciting new read. Before we get started, just a quick note that if you desire or need closed captions for this event, you can find that feature by hovering over your toolbar and selecting the Closed Captions button. Okay, I'm going to now invite all of our panelists to turn on their cameras, and we'll start the presentation off with Julia Pohl-Miranda, Marketing Director at Drawn and Quarterly. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Hi, everyone. Delighted to be here. My name is Julia Pohl-Miranda, and I work for Drawn and Quarterly. We are one of the leading graphic novel publishers for adults, and we also publish certain crossover books and also YA and some kids books as well. So today I'm going to be talking to you about Blackward by Lawrence Lindell. This just came out about a month ago now, and I think that Blackward is the perfect book to put in the hands of any teen who is Black and queer, neurodivergent, dealing with mental health issues, or just plain not feeling represented by the culture that they see in the world. This is a book for all of the Black weirdos, punks, and queer folks. This is a really feel-good comic, and it is inspired by Lawrence's own experiences finding community through zine making and small press publishing. It is about 4 friends, Laika, Amor, Tony, and Lala, who encounter microaggressions and trolls at their meetings for their little club in the local community center. And when that happens, they take a stand and get kicked out of having their meetings there. So their friend who owns the local bookstore suggests they build a community event of their own intended to center the Black and queer experience. And that is the starting point for the Blackward Zine Fair. And as they go through the process of starting up this zine fair, they are stressed and anxious and scared that it's not going to work well, but it also helps them find a wider community of like-minded folks. This book has gotten write-ups in the New York Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Lambda Literary Review, and more. And it also got a starred review from Kirkus, where they said, "For many readers, this is the Blackest, queerest, and sweetest thing they'll see since looking in the mirror. It's a paean to the radical joy of being every part of yourself." I think that's all I have to say about that one. So I'll pass it over to Katie Sands.
Hey everyone, my name is Katie Sains, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Oni Press. For those of you who aren't familiar with Oni Press, we are an independent comics publisher who's been around for about 25 years. We publish everything from kids to adults. You might know us from titles like Scott Pilgrim by Brian Lee O'Malley, Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Xu, and Sheets by Brenna Thumler. So today I'm here to talk to you about Malcolm Kidd and the Perfect Song by debut creator Austin Paramore and artist Sarah Bollinger, who you might know from the very popular webcomic Girls Have a Blog. Malcolm Kidd is just fun all around. So it is about this boy, Malcolm, who is an aspiring musician, and he's on his way to his big audition when his keyboard breaks. So his friend January decides to replace his keyboard for him and pulls up local pawn shops on her phone. And they're taken to this shop that has this man working the counter who has these crazy eyes. And he gives them too good of a deal on a used keyboard. But hey, who's to say no to a free keyboard? So Malcolm takes it home and learns that it's cursed with the soul of a jazz musician. And the only way to free the musician is to play the perfect song. But what does the perfect song sound like? That's what Malcolm is left to uncover as he journeys across their city of New Braunfels in search of the perfect song, the history of this musician who's trapped inside, and also hoping to find himself as a musician along the way. So this book is humorous, it's heartfelt, it's told in this beautiful sepia, rich, like almost black and white, but more sepia tones. And readers don't have to have any knowledge of jazz or music to be fully invested in Malcolm's story. It's really all about pursuing your passion and overcoming all of the obstacles in your way. One of the sub-themes of the story is also to do a little bit with generational trauma, as Malcolm's parents don't quite support his dream to be a musician for reasons that do get to be uncovered as the story goes along. So I can't recommend enough Malcolm Kidd and the Perfect Song by Austin Paramore and Sarah Bollinger, which came out this past August. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to Lauren Heitzhusen at Mad Cave Studios.
Hi, thank you, Katie. My name is Lauren Heitzhusen. I am the senior editor for Maverick, which is Mad Cave's young adult imprint. Mad Cave is an independent comics publisher, and getting to work on stories at Maverick is a dream come true for me. We've got a focus on diverse storytelling, and it's really such a blast. And I'm here to talk about Confetti Realms. And Confetti Realms is a story about a group of teenagers who are transported from a graveyard on Halloween night because they're teenagers. It's Halloween. What are you going to do? And they end up in a mysterious other realm where they have to collect teeth for a sentient puppet in order to pay for their way back home. And along the way, they learn a lot about themselves. And it's one of the first times that, at least I, as a reader, have seen two friends kind of coming to terms with the fact that finding balance in their friendship and understanding that your mental health can have an impact on your friend group. That's the first time I've seen really any book kind of discuss that to the depth here. It's very Tim Burton-esque in its illustration and is available actually today. It's written by Eisner Award winner Nadia Shamas with art by Carnessa. It's got an incredibly diverse cast of characters, and the entire thing where they're chasing down teeth and running into these incredible creatures, people with cat heads and frogs walking on their hind legs. One of my favorite characters is named Bitter Hops. He is a frog. And yeah, it's available today and is perfect for people that want something a little spooky for Halloween. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Martha.
Would help if I unmuted myself. I'm Martha Mihalik, executive editor at Green Willow Books, which is an imprint of HarperCollins, and I am delighted to be here to introduce you to Carolyn Wilson's debut, The Faint of Heart. This book takes a high concept premise reminiscent of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Severance, and melds it with the big emotions of books like this one, Summer. Adolescence is so often marked by turbulent emotions that feel too big to contain. So what if you could just get rid of them? In June's society, everyone has undergone the procedure to remove their hearts. This is June, our heroine. They're numb to pain and loss and anxiety, but also to hope and joy and love. June has kept her heart because, after all, she is an artist, and how could she be that without her feelings? As all of her friends and even her sister undergo the procedure, June feels more and more alone and more pressure to do the same. Then she finds an abandoned heart in a jar in an alleyway and meets a boy whose feelings are coming back, and everything changes. Or maybe June's about to change everything. Carolyn Wilson's artwork is ethereal and finely detailed and completely unforgettable. She's just an incredible artist, and I think she has a limitless imagination. She uses color to such a great effect in this book. These are just some of my absolute favorite pages. Finding the heart in the jar is like the creepiest, coolest moment. She uses a limited palette with an understated text and brilliantly explores peer pressure, isolation, and love in this indie next pick that is part speculative fiction, part cautionary tale with a dash of romance. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but the imagery Carolyn uses to bring everything together is just one of my absolute favorite things about the book. I think it's so beautiful and clever. And with that, I will toss it over to Morgan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Perry. I'm the brand manager at Skybound Entertainment. You may know us as a comic book company best known for The Walking Dead and Invincible, or Transformers, which just came out recently this month. But I am here to talk to you guys about one of my favorite books coming out from Skybound. It's going to come out in December, on December 12th. And it's one of my favorite new original launches that we have produced this year. And it is called Arcade Kings by Dylan Burnett. This is actually not the final cover. I only have the single issues because we don't have the collection out yet, but it's super cool. Arcade Kings is the first creator-owned series written and illustrated by Dylan Burnett, who has been illustrated Ant-Man and Cosmic Ghost Rider for Marvel, as well as one of my favorite comic series ever from Boom Studios called Weavers. So when I heard that he was bringing his first creator-owned series to Skybound, I was pulling in for inspiration from video games that I love, like Street Fighter and Skullgirls and Mortal Kombat, as well as bringing in all the shonen anime vibes that I absolutely adore. I was already amped to throw down hard for this series. And then I saw the interior pages and I was just, one hit KO'd and in love, because look at those colors, look at that vibe. Arcade Kings is about Joe. He is a mysterious new face in Infinity City that has suddenly become the hottest player at the Roundhouse Arcade. But Joe has a secret past that's caught up to him when a new challenger rolls into town, which forces Joe to combo his powers with a joystick, his fists, and his fighting family legacy. Dylan's love for anime and manga shine through on every single page. It made finding an appropriate comp title for this series in the North American comic market a little bit difficult because there really isn't anything like it on the shelves. And yet, Arcade Kings is kind of like the ultimate cheat code for any reader 14 and up who enjoys Invincible, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and those who are looking forward to the new anime for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because that new trailer looks sick as all get out. Again, Arcade Kings is going to be in stores December 12th. And with that, I am going to kick it over to Sarah Goodliff.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the head of sales and marketing at Nobrow and Flying Eye. We are a UK-based independent publisher. We publish everything illustrated, but especially comics and graphic novels. And the book that I want to talk about today is this one right here, Vern, Custodian of the Universe, by Tyrell Waiters. It's a debut graphic novel, and I just think this book is so special. The book published in June this year, and the first print run already sold through in less than 3 months and has already reprinted for America. I'm so proud of this book. I'm so proud of Tyrell because I think it's such a brilliant debut. I think what makes this so special is that it's equal parts hilarious and also incredibly thought-provoking, and also brings in classic sci-fi themes. Vern, our protagonist, we meet on the edge of burnout. He moves back home to Florida to live with his mum and his grandma, and his grandma gets him a job as a janitor at a local science facility. But as soon as he starts at Quasar at this facility, he realizes that there's much more to the job than meets the eye. His real job is to clean up intergalactic mess that the scientists are making. Quasar has developed this pill that when you take it, you can jump between dimensions and you can travel to planets in just a flash. Vern's told under no circumstance that he will be able to take the pill, but of course, temptation is very strong and he does. But jumping between the worlds, he soon comes to realize that something is terribly wrong and that Quasar has some very sinister secrets that they've been hiding. Vern is then also confronted by the Void, which is this mystical kind of black hole being who confronts Vern with the biggest question of them all: what's the point? And Vern needs to find a way to answer that by the end of the book, while also being chased through time and space by Quasar. The book really asks big questions about the world and our place in the universe, but it's super funny. It also has lots of humor for teens, but also I think a lot of millennials will relate to the quite dark humor around burnout especially. And at the same time, this book has this intergenerational family story at the heart, which is really beautiful. And if I can show you a quick flick through, the art is really special. Every time Vern jumps to a new planet, the color palette changes. So you get this really vibrant shift in color as he moves to each new planet, from purple to green to blues to pinks to reds. This isn't really doing it justice, but I urge you to pick up a copy of the book. Vern is a perfect sci-fi graphic novel for me. It's got stunning art, massive heart, and I really urge you all to read it. And I'm going to pass over to Shayna now.
Thank you. I all these books look so good. I keep like squinting closer to my screen because I just want to like take in all the beautiful art. Thank you all for being here. I'm Shayna Corey. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm an editorial director at Random House Graphic. We are the kids graphic novel imprint at Random House. And I am so excited to talk graphic novels with you all and get all these awesome book recommendations. And I'm especially excited to be sharing this book, Hidden Systems: Water, Electricity, the Internet, and the Secrets Behind the Systems We Use Every Day. This book is out. It just came out in March, and it is absolutely fantastic YA nonfiction, a debut from cartoonist Dan Knott. This book is so cool. It's brilliantly done, sometimes funny, always really fun and interesting and readable and super accessible. It makes all of this nonfiction really digestible. It is definitely not dry nonfiction. It's a look at the history of science and the things we use every day that keep our society moving. Things like water and electricity and internet, the things that we almost don't notice until they break down, and then we really, really notice them. For each of these, there's this whole hidden history. That's where the name comes from, Hidden Systems. This whole hidden history filled with intrigue and drama. And Hidden Systems tells those stories and show how the decisions that people were making in the very beginning, when they were inventing and constructing some of the early technologies, still affect the way we use them today. It's full of maps and diagrams and really cool facts. I'll flip through a little bit. It's all about how it's not just how they were made, it's in how they were developed, it's how we keep them running, how they impact everything now, from the environment to structural inequality, and also how we can make changes to improve our future. And it does all of this in this package that is so appealing and readable and engaging. I love this book. It's perfect for anyone who loves nonfiction. There's so many great like nonfiction series in the middle grade space, science comics and history comics, but there's not quite as much in the teen space. And this really fills that need. It's perfect for those readers, but it's so high interest that it really can cross over to adults as well. We previewed this in the office, and one reader said, "I gave a copy of this to my 15-year-old son and my 78-year-old father-in-law, and they both loved it. I have never thought of these two as having the same reading taste." But it's just that kind of book. You can dip in and pour over it. It's just fun. It's like the kind of book you just want to have on, not even on your shelf, but on your coffee table, so you can just read it whenever. It's great for libraries, for classroom discussions, because it has these fantastic themes: engineering and change, activism, the environment, structural inequalities. And it really invites readers to kind of like grapple with those kind of questions and the way things are. It starts with this quote that I love: "The ultimate hidden truth of the world is that it is something we make and could just as easily make differently," which is kind of one of those quotes that you're like, oh, it's really cool to think about. So there's a lot to talk about here. It's gotten fantastic acclaim. It was an Indie Next book. It got a star review from Booklist. They said the true power of comics is on display here. And last month, it was longlisted for the 2023 National Book Award in Young People's Literature. So we haven't gotten in the reprint, but here you can see my printout with the seal on the cover. So we were really excited about that. And I really do think it's one of those books that just kind of showcases all graphic novels can do. So thank you. Without further ado, I'll bounce it back to Mel.
Thanks so much. Just to echo Shayna, these books all look incredible, and I'm so excited to get my hands on every single one of them. A quick reminder, I'm Mel Shuett, and I'm the School and Library Marketing Manager at the Quarto Group. And just a huge thank you to the Children's Book Council for having us here today, and an even bigger thank you to everyone who's listening to this and taking time out of your day to learn about some of the fantastic new graphic novels that we have in store for you for the rest of the year. Today, in addition to moderating, I am also here to talk about Soulbeat, which is a groovy new series that launched this past Tuesday. This is volume 1, The Payback, And in this book, after a fateful encounter to save his friend and mentor, pro boxer and 70s loving soul brother, Dante Alphonse, will pursue his toughest challenge yet, defeating the devil himself or die trying. So you get to meet Dante Alfonso, who's a promising boxer who has always been quick to step in and hold down his city, whether it's fighting a bully in his neighborhood or even stopping a robbery. Of course, when your name means to endure, being an unstoppable force for good pretty much comes naturally. But sometimes good deeds attract unwanted attention, and when Dante tries to defend his mentor from being killed by the worst person imaginable, the devil himself, he finds himself targeted by the forces of evil for his interference. Dante must use the knowledge his mentor left him and hone his newfound spiritual powers, not only to save his own life, but to destroy the devil before more lives are ruined. He'll have to uncover the truth surrounding his mentor's mysterious past and ultimately show the afterlife what it really means to have a soul. Readers of Shaman King and Bitter Root are going to find a lot to love in this book, with themes of good versus evil and protecting the shady underbelly of society because it's home. Soulbeat is rated T for teen and recommended for ages 13 and up. And that is the presentation. So thank you so much to everyone for sticking around and checking out what everyone has coming out this fall in the YA graphic novel space. It looks like we do have some time for questions. So I am going to start with the ones that you all submitted online. And if we have time at the end, we can take a look at some of the ones that you've submitted during the presentation. I think the first most important possibly question is there a list of book titles and authors? And the answer is yes. The Children's Book Council will be sending around a list of all of the titles that we've talked about today so that you can easily add them to your Edelweiss queues or wherever you purchase your and look for books. This one I am going to throw out to the team because I think it's a fantastic question, and it's what are the benefits of graphic novels? And then it's a two-part question. What would you say is the earliest age to start reading graphic novels? And I would say as soon as you can read, you can be reading graphic novels, because personally, I feel that picture books, early readers, are just sort of a natural progression into graphic novels. So really that can start at any age. Does anyone want to add to that?
I would just say, yeah, even before you can read, there's such great scaffolding because, when kids need those picture cues, you could kind of go two tracks, right? When you're learning to read, you can go the early reader track, but you can also go the early graphic novel track because those picture cues are going to help you figure out the words. And there's so many of those silent graphic novels and silent picture books that are really perfect for that pre-reader to help them just kind of develop literacy and understanding story.
100%, Morgan?
Yeah, I would agree. Visual literacy is absolutely a thing, and graphic novels are one of the most essential tools for helping with reluctant readers, myself included. I had reading comprehension issues as a child, and so reading comics and graphic novels was a way for me to help build up my vocabulary and be able to pass different tests and move forward into a larger, loving ability for reading, which led to novels. So yeah, the earlier you can start, the better. Like, don't think that you can. We have such a wide range of graphic novels available to us now, especially for young readers and middle grade. It's just, the world is open.
Yeah. One person sent in a question. I run a graphic novel book club at our local high school. Do you have any advice for using the books to engage a YA audience?
I think especially with Confetti Realms, and there's a really great opportunity to talk about kind of who you identify, and especially with the core and especially with the core conflict in Confetti Realms, of which there are many. This idea that you're running around solving someone else's debt to go home and figuring out who you relate to. There, being a teenager and being a young adult is so much about figuring out who you are and kind of having this final evolution into who you will be. And I think graphic novels, they visually show you that, and you can watch their growth. And not to keep talking about Confetti Realms, but the growth that these characters go through and the decisions that they make are decisions that teenagers are going to have to face in high school. The main couple in the book have to decide whether they're going to stay together through college or not. And I think that that's really relatable for a lot of teenagers, you have that high school relationship, and is this something that you're going to hang on to, or do you need to figure out what your next steps are?
Yeah, and to Morgan's point too, just the wide availability of so many books now. Now we have books that are the blackest, queerest, books with which we didn't have before. And so there's definitely a much more accessible points, I think, now than there were in the past.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it could also be fun, especially with high school kids, to talk to them about the craft of it. As an editor, I edit both graphic novels and prose, and I always think it's so interesting to look at, if you're doing a prose novel, you might need 3 paragraphs of this internal thought or explanation, in one silent panel in a graphic novel, if the expression is right, can get all that across. So it's kind of, I think it's interesting to talk to kids, because kids are usually their own writers and artists, like, about that craft and in different ways to convey different things.
I was going to echo that too, of just the discussion can be wider than the story and the text. It can really be about the style and what the artist is doing. And especially if you have I think it's interesting if you have an author artist or a separate author and separate illustrator. I think that could lead to really rich discussions with teens.
Something a lot of publishers are doing as well with their graphic novel selections are offering teaching guides on their website that you can download. I know we do that for Skybound Comet. We don't necessarily have one for Arcade Kings, but we have one for everything that we've published through Skybound Comet, and we work in close association with Creators Assemble to build out those so that you can explore the themes and have discussion questions, as well as work like workable activities with folks in your graphic novel clubs as well. So I know we're not the only ones that do that.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I know Random House Graphic does too. And they're so fun. They're so interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is often my authors anyway are very keen on coming to virtual book clubs if there are virtual book clubs. And so and there's often lots of like little swag items that publishers produce for their books. And it's really great to just like reach out to the publisher if you're excited about a book and say, hey, do you have anything that I could give to my book club to get people excited about coming? Like, we did stickers for one book earlier this year. We do sign book plates for others. So there really are like opportunities to get either the author involved or the publisher involved in some way. But if you just reach out directly to the publisher.
This is another really fun question, and it's very wide, and I'm very excited about it. What are some upcoming trends we should be looking out for?
Middle grade horror.
Ooh, I love it.
We've had a lot of interest in that, and that is the #1 thing that we heard at ALA annual this year. Was where's the horror? Where's middle grade horror?
Love that.
The continuing influence of anime and manga on traditional American comics, I think, is another thing to keep an eye on. I feel like the influence grows every year and has grown. Like my earliest book memories are kind of that shape too, and it just keeps growing and growing. So that's definitely another thing to keep an eye out for as well.
And to that end, I feel like seeing sort of diversity, a lot of, characters of color in those spaces, especially in the manga space, which I think is a fun upcoming trend that we'll be seeing more and more of.
I think with the success of Heartstopper, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say something that I am looking for, and that I think is a trend as well, is more funny books for like that young teen, kind of like the 12, 13. Doesn't even have to be a book that doesn't have big themes, but just something that's really fun that will make a reader laugh, because I think that age group especially gets forgotten a little bit. So that's something that I'm really looking for, and that I think will grow.
So the horror end of the spectrum, and then also the joyful end of the spectrum. Yeah.
And I was going to say, with the success of Heartstoppers, like, I think we're going to just continue to see a lot more YA romance. And then also, I think at least traditional publishers for a long time have really over-indexed in middle grade in graphic novels. And now we're starting to see that growth in YA and early readers. So I think we'll see a much higher growth curve there. We'll be publishing a lot more of those.
I'm looking forward to all of those trends. Do any publishers on this call have plans to create large print or more visually accessible graphic novels for kids who have vision issues? I thought that was a fantastic question and definitely one that I'm going to bring back to my editorial team.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to think about. Yeah.
So it's definitely, hopefully, an upcoming trend for whomever asked that question. We'll hopefully be seeing more of that. We sort of touched on this, but what's a good starting point for someone who wants to get into graphic novels? And we can be sort of broad or a little more specific.
For me, I'm kind of my journey into getting into graphic novels was finding things that I was already interested in and then reading graphic novels about that. And I think that's a great way to get started, whether you've got a student that's interested in sports, looking at sports graphic novels, or if they're a fan of a specific anime, sending them back to the manga. It's for me, it's finding something you're already interested in when you're exploring a new medium, and then taking a step with that. That way, you're not throwing yourself directly into like, I don't know if I like what this is about, and I don't know if I like the medium.
I think that's very wise.
Yeah, similarly, like especially with what Lauren said in regards to if they're liking anime, go back to the manga. There's a lot of licensed comics in North American graphic novels, so that's a very easy stepping point for if you have a child that likes Lego, that they can find Lego graphic novels, or if they're more into like Five Nights at Freddy's, they can find Five Nights at Freddy's graphic novels. It's just finding that thing that they like Lauren said, and tying it back to reading.
I think that is such a good point, Morgan. Like just, even coming to it as a parent with kids that are always going to go to the licensed books when they're younger, like any reading is great reading, right? And it's your entry point. And tied into that is that idea of choice, that there's so many choices now. There's so many books. There's no right answer for everyone, but there's so many possibilities. There really is a book for a graphic novel for every kid and every reader.
And so many intersectional books. I mean, you want a book about one thing and you get to learn about something completely, different, which is just phenomenal. I've got 2 more questions for you, and then I think we'll have a little bit of time for a couple of us to present a second book. What are some ways to promote LGBTQIA+ graphic novels? I think this is sort of an interesting question since we have some different people in different roles on here. For us at Quarto, really, we love working with our librarians directly as we can, because you get their approval on a book and they'll be sending that book out for years and years and years. So for us, it's about finding those people who will show as much love as they can for a book, and sort of that's sort of our starting point. Where do you guys start when it comes to promoting your graphic novels, specifically the ones that have to do with the LGBT community?
Yeah, so this is a book about being queer as much as it is about anything else. And we start in part with finding blurbers who are voices, who will advocate for the book on the back cover of the book, so that when somebody is encountering it in a catalog or something like that, that person sees these cues. And then we're also doing it every step of the way through the process. We're making sure that the queer bookstores we are connected to hear about it. We're making sure that the queer librarians and book clubs and things like that we know about are hearing about the book. And we're also doing outreach to press, to the queer press. So, something like the Lambda Literary Review or the Bay Area Reporter specifically wrote about this book. We do outreach to like queer podcasts and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah, I would say at Harper, we have a really vibrant social platform for teens called Epic Reads. And I think especially for things reaching a queer audience, like getting right to teens and getting them to talk about it and advocate for the books amongst themselves too has been really helpful, and a great resource, because I think like nothing's more powerful than a teen recommending their favorite book to one of their friends.
Something that we really try and do is make sure that when we're comparing a title to like a very well-established title that it's honest. It's not just, oh, this is the next Heartstopper. This is the book I think you should read after Heartstopper because of this one specific reason or this one specific theme. So I think for us, the specificity is really important to us, and finding that particular reader and that particular reason for that reader.
We just got an interesting question through the chat, and I have some very strong opinions, but I'm going to throw it out to you guys first to see how you guys feel. Can you talk briefly about the differences between comics and graphic novels? This person's university students really wrestle with this, and they call everything a comic book.
Yeah, that we actually have that terminology discussion a lot at Skybound because we have to educate a lot of folks internally who aren't necessarily part of the editorial team about what is a comic, what is a graphic novel, and the way that we describe it is a comic book describes a single issue or a periodical, so the floppies that you see at the comic book store, whereas a graphic novel is a collection of those single issues or a single book of original graphic content. And that is our distinction between comics and graphic novels. So the graphic novel is the larger of the two formats, whereas the single issue is the comic. But everything is comics. Like that's like the overarching umbrella term.
Yeah,
I don't know, someone else can go.
I mean, that is the traditional distinction that you would make. A periodical is like a staple bound comic book typically, and then like a comic book would be that staple bound thing, and then a perfect bound book would be a graphic novel. But also like graphic novels encompasses graphic nonfiction. So I default to comics usually, but I also just think whatever terminology people feel good about is what matters. If they like saying comic book, great. If they like saying graphic novel, great. It doesn't like it's all sequential art that we're talking about, that is this unique medium that encompasses a lot of genres, a lot of formats, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of ways of telling stories. So
I feel like if you get resistance from parents because they like don't think comics are real reading, then you use graphic novels and it gets you in.
yeah, I always tell people I work in comics because it feels too like fussy to say I work in graphic novels.
Oh. I mean, I feel like you all pretty much summed up much more eloquently than I could have exactly how I feel the differences are, but reading is reading. So getting the book to someone, if they want to, it's like anything else, however they want to label it, as long as they're reading, that is a-okay with me.
Agreed.
Those are all of the questions, and we do have about 15 minutes left. So I was going to ask Lauren and Morgan to present their second titles since we have a little bit of time. Lauren, would you like to go first with Voyage de Gourmet?
So this is the cover for Voyage de Gourmet. It is a really, really fun book about reality TV, forgiveness, and social media fame. And food, and a really, really cute dog. This is Frog, the dog. Everyone loves him. So Lane Green is a social media sensation of a cook. He is selected to compete in a reality TV show called Voyage de Gourmet. And I kind of think of it as Cutthroat Kitchen meets the Great Race. Just give me a second to think of that show where they're running around the world. However, the partner that he has for this is his former best friend, Jang Mi Pepper, someone that he really, really hurt in the past. So not only are the two of them having to work together, they're also having to get over and work through this very complex problem that they have between them. I don't want to spoil exactly what it is. So they run around the world, they're cooking, they're having a great time. Frog the dog is adorable, a champion of my heart. And it's wonderful. The artwork is great. And you really, because it's a reality TV show, people are getting eliminated throughout this. And the author, Paul Tobin, has put so much heart into making what are really kind of side characters, fully fleshed out characters. So you get very emotionally attached to these people that you know are going to get sent home. It's fun. There are a lot of really neat, unexpected twists, and it's the first book that I've ever worked on that's made me genuinely hungry while I was working on it.
I love that. That sounds amazing. You got me with food. I love food comics. They're great. So I'm here to talk about Ava's Demon, Book One, Reborn, which came out earlier this year at the end of May. This is from Michelle Fuss. They are a non-binary multimedia webcomic artist, and we are collecting their work, Ava's Demon, together in print for the first time. We had a very successful Kickstarter to bring the book to fans first, and then we had a mass media outlet distribution. So this is for fans of Lore Olympus and Teen Titans Raven. And like I said, this is a game-changing multimedia webcomic and Kickstarter sensation from Michelle Fuss. Ava's Demon is a multi-volume sci-fi fantasy series about a shy girl named Ava who makes a pact with an ancient alien queen named Rathia, who seeks revenge against the most powerful being in the universe in exchange for a better life. And in exchange, Ava must help Rathia kill Titan, who is basically like the Jeff Bezos of this world. Like he's like a multimedia like dictator, like controlling people with food and shopping. It's ridiculous. He's also like a religious cult leader. So you're in a cult, call your dad. Joining her on her mission is Maggie, Ava's former best friend and fellow refugee, Odin, a brooding young man, as well as Gil, a dedicated follower of Titan. He's had a little bit of the Kool-Aid, and unbeknownst to Ava, all three of them are hiding their own inner demons. And it's looking a little bit like Rathia's army is a little bit closer to her than she may think or originally have believed. What I love about this story is that it's at its core, Ava's Demon is a story about identity and self-worth and seizing your own destiny, beautifully illustrated through a cast of complicated characters that readers can instantly relate to and find themselves in. I myself instantly connected to Odin. I love that guy. He is so awesome. And they can grow alongside them as the story progresses. Ava's Demon Book One is available now, like I said earlier, and then Book Two, Aftermath, will arrive next year, which will focus entirely on Odin's backstory. So get ready. You're gonna get hit in the feels. It's gonna be a real good time.
Awesome. And since we have just a little extra time, for any publishers here who have a second book like physically handy that they want to just give a shout out, I'm going to give a quick shout out to this really cool collection of Saturday AM titles. So Saturday AM is our line of manga style graphic novels. This encompasses a bunch of brand new stories from a ton of new creators, including Uru-chan, who is a webtoon creator. And this one publishes, I want to say, later this month, and it's just super fun. Definitely YA though. It's got some 16 plus content in it. Who else has like a quick 1-minute book they want to throw out there? Julia, go.
I've got Roaming by Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki, creators of This One Summer, Caldecott Honor Book. And this is about 3 friends who go to New York City for the first time, and friendship is hard. And sometimes you don't get along with each other, but you're trying to pretend like you get along with each other. And maybe one of you has a crush on another one of you. And Jillian is just such an amazing visual artist. Her way of drawing a Uniqlo store is incomparable. It's hilarious, it's tender, it's funny, it's about coming into queerness. It's great.
Julia, I am so excited for that book. Like, I just want you to like read it to us now. It's so good.
They're amazing.
Yeah. I didn't have them with me because these are for really not till summer 24. So I'm like, what year are we in? I have to get so lost in publishing. But I am really excited that we are doing an adaptation of Tammy Pierce's First Test. And I know there are a lot of Tammy Pierce fans out here, and I grew up on her and she's amazing. And it's so good. It's illustrated by Becca Farrow and it's going to be fantastic. So I cannot wait for people to get their hands on that.
Can I do an older book that's perfect for spooky season?
Yeah.
If you haven't picked up Squad,
That
it is queer werewolves basically eating the patriarchy. And it is so good. The author is Maggie Takuta Hall. The artist is Lisa Sturl, who is the artist of the Modern Witch Tarot, and it's like the perfect book for this time of year.
Can I do a quick shout out for one of my books that's publishing next year? we are launching a brand new middle grade series, but one that works really well for age 9+. And I think it would work really well up to kids that are like age 11 and 12 as well. Super funny, silly fantasy series called Cactus Kid. I'm going to try and show you the cover. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Maybe not. But Cactus Kid is this super sassy, funny cactus who dreams of being a magician. And he exiles himself to the never-ending desert to train. And there's like Star Wars style pod racing, biker gangs of various different creatures. It's really funny. Again, it's got real heart to it, and I think it's a really exciting new series from a artist based in California with Mexican heritage, and he brings quite a lot of that into his art and into his storylines as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Shayna, Morgan, Lauren, Julia, Sarah, Martha, and Katie so much for taking time out of your day to present some amazing YA graphic novels for all of us. Thank you to all of our listeners, watchers, everybody, and to the CBC. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and read, read, read. Happy reading. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.